What is happening, everybody? It is Thursday afternoon, which is the time of the week that I sit down and break down everything there is to know about the upcoming Reignmakers slate. So we look at the main slate on Sunday, looking at the different tools we have over at stochastic.com. We look at Thursday night football, and any questions you guys have, we answer those over the course of the show. So if you are watching and you're on YouTube right now, throw a question into the YouTube comments, and I'll be able to get to it during the course of the show. And it could be anything. It could be related to the main slate. It could be related to Thursday night football or anything in between related to fantasy football. So any of those questions, throw them into chat, and I promise I will answer them over the course of the show. Only thing that I ask of you at all while you're watching here for free is to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and then also, if you guys haven't checked out Reignmakers yet, check out the free starters pack because it's free, right? That's a good price point. We could all afford free. And you have the chance to win actual cash prizes with that starters pack. So you click on the link below. It's going to bring you to the DraftKings page. You pick a quarterback of your choosing, and then you get a rest of a lineup filled out around players that are going to be playing on the main slate on Sunday. So free cards you can win actual cash prizes with. Now, let's start with, and by the way, whatever you guys want. If you prefer me to start with Thursday night football, we could hit on that. If you prefer me to start on the main slate, we could do that as well. But if there are no questions, I will just start by looking at the main slate, starting with our top stacks tool, which you guys can see the odds we have of each team being the highest scoring team of the week. And right now we actually do have all of the teams in here, including the Thursday night football, Sunday night football, Monday night football game. So if you're playing the deep slate contest, this is definitely something that you could use to figure out which teams have the best odds of scoring the most fantasy points over on DraftKings. But looking at the teams that are going to be available on the slate on Sunday, I think we have to start by looking at the Miami Dolphins because we have them with a 19.7% chance to be the highest scoring stack of the team for DraftKings fantasy point purposes. And then we have the Rams coming in second. So 19.7% chance for the Dolphins, 18.8% chance for the Rams. Then there's a bit of a drop off here where we have an 11.7% chance for the Bengals. We've got the Chiefs fourth in here at 10.4%. Then no other teams with double-digit odds being the highest scoring team. But also keep in mind with the Chiefs, they aren't going to be available to us on the main slate. But let's look at the Miami Dolphins and what is standing out here. And one thing that we definitely should note for this weekend is Achane, who's been an absolute stud for fantasy purposes. He's been impossibly efficient where he gets like 8-10 carries per game, but somehow he scores on like two of them. He rushes for 100 yards, like 15 yards per carry every week. Out this week and out for the foreseeable future on the injured list. So I am going to assume that, well, actually, I shouldn't assume because we could have already seen a pretty big increase in secondary market prices for Raheem Mostert. I was going to say, I assume he's going to look like a good value, but maybe he's already been bought up, but we'll see right here. Sort by Dolphins projections. And where it all starts here is with Tua. If you guys had the option to play any quarterback this weekend, pricing was not a concern. You already have cards of all these guys. Tua, to me, would be the quarterback you want to roster. So sorting by just Miami players here, you see we have them projected the best, 23.88 fantasy points, followed by Tyreek Hill at 22.55. Something else of note with Tua, no superstar status. So Tyreek Hill, we can only play one superstar. You could only play him, and then you wouldn't be able to play also, I was going to say, you don't want to play Justin Jefferson this week anyway, but other superstars, CeeDee Lamb, we've got Christian McCaffrey as a superstar, and who else? I kind of forget who all of them are off the top of my head, but Patrick Mahomes, he's another superstar. Lamar Jackson is a superstar. That aside, Tyreek Hill, superstar status. Of non-superstars, Tua has one of the best projections for us, and if we look at every team, all right, and we'll sort by QB. And I'll actually just go to main slate here. Filter by main slate. We're only getting main slate players for this purpose. And you'll see, yeah. So of every QB here, actually even including the superstar quarterbacks, we have Tua projected for the most fantasy points. Tua projected for 23.88 DK points this week, followed by Matthew Stafford, 21.76. Makes sense, right? In line with our top stacks tool here. Dolphins, best odds being the highest scoring team on the slate, followed by the Rams. So we got these two quarterbacks with the two best projections, 23.88 for Tua, followed by 21.76 for Matt Stafford. So about 2 fantasy point difference between them. And then as you go a little bit further down, you'll find Jalen Hurts here. He does have the superstar status. It would be hard for me to justify playing a Jalen Hurts over a Matthew Stafford or a Tua this week because of that superstar status. where I don't really want to burn my superstar card by using him in the quarterback spot. I'd rather it be at other spots. But anyway, getting back to the Dolphins, if you could play anybody, if you got cards of all the quarterbacks this week, Tua is your guy. I think that's the guy you want to be playing. Best projection for us. All right, so getting back to Miami, I think there's a really strong case for Tyreek Hill being the superstar that we want to roster for the slate. And I'll look at all of the superstars in a second here, where we could look at all of them under our projections, see what we come away with. And then as for Raheem Mostert, yeah, he has gotten to be quite expensive here, actually. $15.99 as the core floor price for him. What is he at the rare level? Yeah, $43 at the rare for Raheem Mostert. So he projects well for us, 15.95 fantasy points. But if you guys don't already have a Mostert card, I'm not really willing to pay this exorbitant of a price. He's gotten to be very expensive on the secondary market. So if you jumped at him early, like right when the news came out that Achane was hurt, I don't know exactly off the top of my head what Mostert prices were, but they were definitely a value relative to what they are now. Other players to potentially consider here, I think Jalen Waddle's a really strong choice, and compare him to Mostert, for instance. 15.52 fantasy points. That is the that is the projection we have on Jalen Waddle compared to 15.95 for Mostert. So Mostert projects a little bit better, but we're looking at 0.43 fantasy point difference between the two of them compared to the floor price, whereas Waddle is a floor price of $6.24, Mostert $15.99. So you're getting Jalen Waddle for less than half the price with a very comparable projection. So with that in mind, I think you really want to be prioritizing Jalen Waddle if you're looking to buy a player from the Dolphins on the secondary market. Question in the YouTube chat from David Lynch wants to know, is DK planning to adjust to which players have superstar designations like they did last season? Yes. I forget which week they do it, though. Let me check Slack to see if they have a message about it in there. Good question, though, David. The answer is yes. I don't know exactly which week it is. If you guys aren't in the DraftKings Reignmakers Discord channel, you should get in on that because it's another thing. It's free to get into. They do giveaways. They give away packs and they give away crafting tokens, stuff like that. So check out the Discord. And that's also where you could find news to answer the questions here like David has. But it might be a little bit hard for me to find the answer while I'm on the air doing the show. But I know they're going to be doing it at some point to directly answer your question. They will. I'm not exactly sure which week. I think last week it was week 8. If I remember correctly. Anyway, yeah, the superstar status, how it works for people who don't know about it is you can only play one superstar player per lineup. There's a handful of quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers that have superstar status. And then about midway through the season, which players have superstar status ends up getting changed. So some players that might be a superstar that have been underperforming will lose their superstar status. And then players that did not have the superstar tag that are playing exceptionally well for the year, they can get the superstar tag added to them. So somebody like Stephon Diggs, good chance that he might become a superstar when we see the next update, but remains to be seen. As for the other players on the Dolphins, is there anything we really want to prioritize here? No, really big drop off. So what is kind of cool here about stacking the Dolphins and all their high top stack odds, we only have a decent projection on 4 players. You're playing Tua, Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Waddle. Outside of that, we don't really have to consider or care about any of these other Dolphins players. And of the group of them, Jalen Waddle makes for the best purchase on the secondary market with a $6.24 asking price. And I would say Tua is the most valuable card to own right now, just based on the fact that he's a quarterback with no superstar status and pretty regularly projects as one of the, if not the best quarterbacks per week. And somebody who's very live, by the way, per David's question, I would not be shocked at all if we end up seeing a superstar tag get added to Tua in the near future. I'm actually curious, who are the, let's see. Let's go to all teams. Who are the superstar quarterbacks? And then we'll look at all the superstars in general and figure out who we want to prioritize at the spot for the week. So superstar quarterbacks. I know Mahomes is one, Josh Allen is one, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, and Lamar Jackson. So let me think about production this year. Maybe like Justin Herbert loses superstar status and Tua picks it up. That wouldn't shock me at all once the superstar status ends up getting changed midway through the season. But anyway, let's look at all the players. All the players with superstar status, but for the main slate. Before the main slate, we've got Tyreek Hill projected for 22.55 fantasy points. Cooper Kupp, if you guys ended up buying some of his cards, we have seen them go up in the secondary market price. I still think they're going to go up even more because Kupp looked great last week. And that's something we talked about on the show a week ago, is Cooper Kupp being a superstar buy low option, and the fact that his core floor price when we were doing the show last week, it was like $7 off the top of my head. So let's just say you bought, a handful of Cooper Kupp cards, assuming that his floor price was going to go up. You could have bought, 10, 20 Cooper Kupp cards for $7 a piece. And individually, are each of them going to make you a lot of money? No, but you'd be making $4 a piece. So it is a way you could have flipped them and seen a player whose value is about to go up. So Cooper Kupp ended up playing, by the way, way more than I expected last week. Had a really strong game. I'll pull up Cooper Kupp's stats for last week. And then we could kind of use that as a basis for how much he played and what we could expect going forward. Overall, though, I just think we're getting like 100% full, ready to go Cooper Kupp this weekend. I mean, he had 8 catches for 118 yards. First game of the season, coming off the injured list, a hamstring injury, the type of thing that normally would linger. 12 targets, 8 catches, 118 yards. Cooper Kupp looked great. He looked as good as he ever looked. So Cooper Kupp is somebody who I still think is a little bit cheap on the secondary market. So he makes sense. But overall, if you had the ability to just pick one superstar and play any of them this week, I would go towards Tyreek Hill. 22.55 is our fantasy point projection on him. He plays wide receiver, which is one of the more premier positions, whereas somebody like quarterback here, Jalen Hurts, less so. So I usually want to look at either a running back or wide receiver as my superstar, and Tyreek Hill fits the bill this week. And then also, obviously, if you have him paired with Tua, you're getting good stack correlation. You can even do double stacks this week. I don't mind at all going to Tua with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle all in the same lineup. I think that's a pretty good build. All right, so the other team we wanted to look at here was the Los Angeles Rams. And this is also where if you guys want to build a Ram stack and go with Cooper Kupp paired with Matthew Stafford, I think that makes a whole lot of sense as well, because as we saw before when we were looking at quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford is our second highest projected quarterback of the week. Only Tua is higher, but Stafford's super cheap. He's about half the price right now of Tua Tagovailoa. And now you've got Cooper Kupp back in the mix for Matthew Stafford. That's only going to increase his production. So let's go and look at the Rams. Take off the superstar designation in the filter. And here we go. So fantasy point projections here. We've got Cooper Kupp projected for 21.92, followed by Matthew Stafford at 21.76. But Tua's floor price was nearly $20, where we've got Matthew Stafford at just $8.69. So if you guys are looking for a quarterback to pick up to fill out a lineup this week, I think Stafford's the best value you're going to find on the secondary market, at least as far as quarterbacks are concerned. Really like getting to Stafford here. Kyron Williams remains pretty expensive at a $13.99 floor core asking price, and 16.47 is his fantasy projection here, which, strong projection. A little bit more than I'd be willing to pay for him as a secondary market card, but if you have him in your collection, definitely a strong option at running back. And yeah, as for the rest of the players on this team, nothing really standing out from a projection standpoint, right? We've got Tyler Higbee, 10.3. So there aren't that many guys here who are really looking great for the Rams outside of Stafford and Kupp. And I forget about, let me check something. Puka Nacua. Yeah, there are no Nacua cards. So that's why he's not in the projections right now for us for Reignmakers, because there are no Puka cards. So that does take one player out of consideration we'll be thinking about for the Rams. That aside, the Stafford to Kupp combination, certainly a good one. Kyron Williams, probably a little bit too expensive for me. But if you want like a lower cost option as opposed to the Rams, Cooper Kupp projects less than Tyreek Hill, but a few dollars cheaper. And same with Matthew Stafford. So Stafford to Kupp per dollar is a better value on the secondary market than the Dolphins, even if the Dolphins do project for a little bit more fantasy points. Let's go back to the top stacks tool. And let's look at the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the third best projection in terms of top stack odds on the slate. So let's filter by them. Cincinnati. Joe Burrow looked considerably better last week. Can we all agree on that? Joe Burrow looked terrible the first few games of the year, not necessarily entirely because of fault of his own, but he was just banged up. He's playing with the calf injury. The Bengals got off to a slow start, and I think he really felt like he had to play to keep the team competitive. And, last week was a game where the Bengals were 1-3. They're playing the Cardinals. If you lose that game, you're 1-4, and you've lost one of the easiest games on your schedule. So it was a really, really important game for them to win. And not only did they do it, but Joe Burrow really looked as healthy as he had all year. He connected with Jamar Chase a number of times. What did Chase finish with? 200 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns or something like that? Let me see. Jamar Chase. What was the final stat line on him? Jamar Chase last week. I mean, yeah, if you were playing any kind of contest on DraftKings, you had to have Jamar Chase to have a chance to win anything decent. Yeah. 15 catches on 19 targets, 192 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I said 200 yards. He had 192. Close enough. But either way, I think we could really bank on Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense being much better going forward now that Joe Burrow does appear to be healthier. Should make a massive difference. And one thing also is a pretty clear sign for me that Burrow was healthier. It was not just the fact that he had all the passing success, all the chemistry that he had with Jamar Chase. It was also the fact that he was running the football. So Joe Burrow, who we've basically not seen run at all this year, there was a couple of times he was flushed out of the pocket, was able to pick up decent gains, and there was no chance of that happening in previous weeks. He was limping around the field. He wasn't really able to plant reliably. That was not the issue last week, where pretty much across the board, it was season highs. He had 4 carries for 7 yards, which does 7 yards seem like a lot? No, but it's the most rushing yards he's had all year. He also had a 10-yard scramble up the middle when he was under pressure, and that was by far his longest run of the year. Something else that kind of skews the numbers is the Bengals won. They kneeled down at the end of the game, so that did limit the rushing yardage of Joe Burrow. That aside, though, talked about season highs. 36 completions, season high. 46 passing attempts, season high. 317 yards, season high. 3 touchdowns, season high. The 7 rushing yards, also a season high. All this indicates to me Joe Burrow healthier, and a quarterback here who $9.79 is his floor price. Just for this weekend, for value purposes, Matthew Stafford is the better option. But let's say that you wanted to build 2 lineups and you're looking for as much value as possible. I think that you could go with Matthew Stafford to Cooper Kupp in one lineup, and you go Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase in another. Jamar Chase's floor core price is $11.50. We got Joe Burrow, $9.79. Burrow project for 20.23 fantasy points, and Jamar Chase at 21.16. Really like that combination this week. I think it makes a whole lot of sense. Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase. Are we chasing fantasy points? To an extent, no pun intended there, but keep in mind as well, it's not like the field is going crazy for these guys. $11.50 for Jamar Chase, $9.79 for Joe Burrow. These are guys who are probably going to get more expensive not as the season goes on, because you get to a point where you're just later in the season, but at least for next week, I would expect Chase and Burrow to see a slight uptick in terms of their pricing, as long as they look decent this week, which I assume they're going to. Joe Mixon, a really good value at running back as well. We've got this matchup for Cincinnati going up against Seattle. It's a favorable one on paper, and Joe Mixon, 17.85 fantasy point projection. His core floor price is only $6.99. So, lots of good buy lows here on the Bengals. I do think this is a team to look at. T. Higgins is super cheap. You can find his floor price as low as $274. We don't know if he's playing or not. T. Higgins was out last week with a rib injury. His status still in doubt for this week. I tend to think Higgins is probably a little more likely to sit than play. The Bengals bye week is coming up, so just let Higgins rest until after the bye week, and then make sure that he's totally 100%, because you don't really want to throw him out there if he's at like 75%, takes a hard hit, screws up his ribs again, and then you set him back even more. So my gut feeling is that T. Higgins probably a little bit more likely to sit than play this week, but what the hell do I know? I'm just making an educated guess. If he is out, Tyler Boyd, only 85 cents is the core floor price. He would not be somebody who, or I should say that he would be somebody who makes sense for like some of the deep slate contests, but maybe wouldn't necessarily go after him in just the Sunday only contest, which is a smaller lineup field where you only have to play, the quarterback, running back, pass catcher, wide receiver / tight end, flex. So with the smaller lineups, I wouldn't play Tyler Boyd in that deep slate, though. I think you can make a case for Tyler Boyd. Nothing else on Cincinnati that really is standing out. Let's go and look back at this. Are any other teams we want to review? The Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know that I want to make an Eagles stack this weekend. Talked about it before. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are projecting well. I don't want to burn a superstar spot on Jalen Hurts. So Eagles, not really a team that I want to play for Reignmakers this weekend. Vikings are interesting. Let's look at Jordan Addison prices, because now that Justin Jefferson is out, Addison is going to project better and could be somebody who still has some cheaper cards that are circulating out there. David Lynching, have any suggestions on how to approach a Sunday Night Football slate between the Giants and the Bills? Concerned about a blowout and the Buffalo timeshare running back. Yeah, for sure. Let's go and look at Sunday Night Football. All right. Forget what we have it. What is it called in here? Oh, here's the easy way to do it. Let's go. Oh, that's why, because I have Cincinnati. So if I go by prime time, that is going to give us some of the Thursday night players as well. So here's what we'll do. We'll go teams, Giants. By the way, this data I'm looking at on screen right here is totally free over at Stokastic.com. So if you guys want to check out our Reignmakers player projections, core floor prices, all that stuff. And the core floors, that's not a projection. It's just based on what the numbers are on the market right now. Go check it out. It's totally free on the site. You go to NFL, you go to premium data, even though it isn't premium data, it's just where it's listed, projections, and then DraftKings Reignmakers NFL projections. That'll bring you to this page. Anyway, let's select the Bills and the Giants so we can answer David's question. And if anybody else has questions, you can just throw them into chat whenever, like David's doing, and then we could answer them. So David, once again, wanted to know how to approach the Sunday night slate between the Giants and the Bills, concerned about a blowout and the Buffalo timeshare at running back. So one thing that is going to make this a little bit tricky is, let's see, we have Barkley in our projections right now, but his status is still up in the air, right? So we don't know exactly whether Barkley is going to be in or out. That's going to have a pretty significant impact on this game because Saquon Barkley is superstar status. If he plays, then you got a decision to make. Josh Allen or Saquon Barkley? The answer to me is Josh Allen, but you could at least consider Saquon Barkley. If Barkley's out, you're just playing Josh Allen. No questions asked. You're playing Josh Allen in a scenario where Saquon Barkley is out because you can make a case, as unlikely as it may be, it's within the realm of possibility that Saquon Barkley could score more fantasy points than Josh Allen. What you can't make a case for, at least not reasonably, is that there are going to be 4 other players in the game that are going to outscore Josh Allen. So the first thing you're doing here is you're playing Josh Allen. If you want to differentiate, you don't have to play him at the captain spot. You could play Stephon Diggs at the captain spot. I don't know how many other players I feel great about, but you're playing Josh Allen in one of your roster spots. So Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, those are 2 guys that you want to consider. I'm not even going to say consider. 2 guys you almost have to play in this game. Daniel Jones is a very strong option as well. The optimal lineup is pretty easy. This is what's going to be duped the most often. Josh Allen at the captain spot, Stephon Diggs, Daniel Jones, James Cook in the flex spot. Simple. At least in terms of you're trying to be optimal. Now, if you want to go out and be contrarian, which is, I kind of get a sense this is partially what David Lynch wants to do here. He doesn't need me to tell him to go play Josh Allen for Sunday Night Football. David's a sharp guy. He can figure this out on his own, but still just showing you what our projections are. We've got Josh Allen projected for a ton of fantasy points. So if we're getting past Allen and Diggs, you've got Daniel Jones, who, by the way, also dealing with a banged up neck. Maybe Daniel Jones doesn't play, which would mean Tyrod Taylor comes in. And if we have Daniel Jones projected for 14.79 fantasy points, just doing like quick math off the top of my head, we probably have Tyrod Taylor projected for somewhere around 13 fantasy points come Sunday Night Football. James Cook, 14.78. So I'm going to say of the players who are expected to be popular, very difficult to get off Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen. You could get off Daniel Jones and or James Cook, though. And if you're going to do that, some guys that I think you might want to consider. Tyler Bass. We have Tyler Bass projected for 10.69 fantasy points. Low asking price of $1.79. Very cheap way to differentiate a lineup. Go out and buy a Tyler Bass card for less than $2. Throw him into one of your flex spots. And is he likely to outscore James Cook or Daniel Jones? Not really. But it's not like the projection difference is totally insanely different, right? We're looking at a 4 fantasy point difference, and he is the player who projects closest to them in very low core floor price. So that is one player you could consider. I just think Darren Waller's worth considering. We finally started to see him get more targets from Jones last week. And also we have to bring the injury situation up here, but Wan'Dale Robinson is banged up. If Wan'Dale Robinson doesn't play, that should mean even more targets going to Darren Waller. And Waller last week, reading off his stats here, overall has been a fantasy disappointment this year, Darren Waller. But last week, 11 targets, season high, 8 catches, season high, 86 yards, season high. He's yet to score a touchdown as a Giant, which it's hard to come by touchdowns if you're a pass catcher for the Giants because they never score touchdowns. But everything is trending in a good direction right now for Darren Waller. So he's somebody else who, if you're trying to be contrarian, I think the guys you want to consider are either Tyler Bass, $1.79 is his core floor price, or Darren Waller, $1.54 as his core floor price. So David Lynch, I hope that helps you build out your Sunday Night Football lineups. And I hear you with the timeshare at the Bills backfield. So if you want to get off Cook and go to like a Waller or a Bass for very cheap, I think that certainly makes sense because we have James Cook. Core floor price, $6.98. His rare core price is $23.98. But we're just looking at the core price for those other guys, Waller and Bass, less than $2. Nothing else that I think I'd really want to get to for Sunday Night Football looking through our projections. After Waller, Robinson is next. But with that said, we don't know if he's going to play or not. We also don't know if we're going to have Saquon Barkley in or out. Maybe what's the core floor price on Breida? I should probably just put his name in here to see. There we go. Breida's core floor price is $1.20. Yeah, I'd rather play Bass or Waller. If even obviously this is under the assumption that Barkley is out. If Barkley plays, no way in hell am I playing Matt Breida, but just kind of bringing him up is another option here that we would at least think about. But now I would rather go to Waller or Bass. Let's also go really quick and look to see who are some good values for the Chiefs game. All right, so Chiefs Broncos today. Good. I know we have the Broncos on primetime tonight, but thank you, NFL, for not booking the Broncos on every single primetime game like you did last year. I mean, I know instead we're stuck with the shitty Giants on basically every primetime game, but last year we had to watch Russell Wilson throw interceptions once a week on primetime. Thursday, Sunday, or Monday Night Football. He was on pretty much one of those spots every week. But anyway, Casey in Denver. Just really quickly run through some of the top values here. By the way, Superstar. You're going to play Patrick Mahomes at Superstar because he's the only player in the game with Superstar status. Travis Kelce, 1924 is as a projection. You want to play him. Here's where you have some options, though. We've got Russell Wilson projected well, Pacheco projected well, and Jerry Jeudy, at least per what the core floor prices are. Look at Jerry Jeudy, $2.40. Like, that's somebody you could get to differentiate one of those lineups for very cheap, as I think Jerry Jeudy makes some sense. If you want to go to a lineup that's Mahomes, Kelce, Jeudy, Russell Wilson, I think per what the prices are, that's probably my favorite overall build. And I'd rather play Jeudy than Courtland Sutton. Jeudy projects slightly better for us, 0.4 fantasy points better. His core floor price a little bit cheaper. Splitting hairs, but everything lines up to Jerry Jeudy being a slightly better option tonight than Courtland Sutton for Reignmakers. And that is, oh yeah, I've said I wanted to look at Addison. So I was going to wrap up the show, but really quick, I'll look at Addison first. All right, Addison. 753. More expensive than I thought he was going to be. A little more expensive than I thought he was going to be. I'm not sure I'd want to pay $7.53 for Addison. If his cards were, like $2-3, then yeah, but at least for now. Good play if you have him, but if not, I wouldn't go out of my way to purchase cards. That is going to do it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you're not done yet, like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're looking for more NFL content from me. Tonight, I'm going to be on the NFL Deeper Dive with Eric Lindquist. We're going to be breaking down the one-game slate tonight from 6:15 to 7:15 p.m. Eastern time, followed by Live Before Lock with Lofty and Neil Orfield. So check us out tonight, guys. Good luck. Enjoy the game tonight. Hopefully it's close and the Broncos don't get destroyed, but I've seen them play on primetime. The Chiefs are going to end up winning by double digits. Game won't be competitive, but we can hold out hope until then. Hope to see you guys later, and good luck tonight.